The city never really slept, but Fazza had learned how to disappear inside its noise. Nights were his refuge, where neon lights blurred into poetry and silence felt louder than words. He wasn't always like this. Once, he had been the kind of man who believed in forever, who trusted promises the way children trust the sky will always be blue. But love has a way of reshaping people, and his story was proof of that. It started on an ordinary evening, the kind that doesn't announce change. A bookstore tucked between two crowded streets, the scent of paper and dust hanging in the air. Fazza wasn't looking for anything that day, not a story, not a moment, and certainly not her. Yet there she was, standing by the window, flipping through pages like she was searching for a piece of herself. Her name was Ara. She didn't notice him at first. And maybe that's what made him notice her more. There was something unguarded about her presence, like she wasn't trying to impress the world. When their eyes finally met, it wasn't dramatic. No music, no cinematic pause, just a quiet recognition, as if something unspoken had found its way between them. "Do you believe in unfinished stories?" she asked suddenly, holding up a book. Fazza blinked, caught off guard. "Only the ones that refuse to end," he replied. She smiled, but there was a sadness behind it. "Or the ones that never got a chance to begin." That was the first conversation. Simple, almost forgettable. Yet it stayed with him long after she left. Some people don't walk into your life, they linger. Days turned into meetings. Meetings turned into habits. And habits slowly became something deeper. They talked about everything: dreams, fears, childhood memories, the kind of conversations that stretch time without you realizing it. Ara had a way of making words feel alive, and Fazza found himself opening parts of his heart he didn't know existed. But love, when it comes quietly, often carries storms behind it. Ara wasn't free, not in the way Fazza hoped she would be. Her life was already written in parts, commitments she didn't choose but couldn't escape. Family expectations, promises made before she understood their weight. She never lied to him about it. From the beginning, she told him the truth. "I don't belong to myself completely," she said one night, her voice barely above a whisper. Fazza should have walked away then. Anyone with sense would have. But love doesn't ask for logic, it demands presence. "I don't need forever," he said, even though his heart silently disagreed. "Just don't pretend this isn't real." And it was real. They built something fragile yet beautiful. Late night calls, shared silences, stolen moments that felt like entire lifetimes. The world outside them continued as usual, unaware that two people were quietly falling into something they couldn't control. Fazza began to believe in impossible things again. He imagined a future, not loudly, not recklessly, but in small ways. A cup of coffee shared in the morning. A home filled with quiet laughter. Ara beside him, not as a fleeting chapter, but as the whole story. but reality has a way of reminding you where you stand. The day everything changed didn't feel different at first. The sky was the same. The streets echoed the same noise. But Ara's voice, when she called him, carried something heavy. "They've decided," she said. Fazza didn't need to ask who they were. He already knew. "And you?" he asked. There was a pause. A long, painful silence that said more than any words could. "I don't have a choice." That sentence broke something inside him, not loudly, not dramatically, but in a quiet, irreversible way. Love isn't always about losing someone to another person. Sometimes, it's about losing them to circumstances, to expectations, to a world that refuses to bend. They met one last time. The same bookstore. The same window. But everything felt different now, like the place itself knew this was an ending. "I wanted to choose you," Ara said, tears resting in her eyes but refusing to fall. "In another life, maybe I would have." Fazza forced a smile, though it felt like holding shattered glass together. "In another life, I wouldn't let you go." They didn't hug. They didn't say goodbye in a dramatic way. Some endings don't need closure, they just fade. After that day, Fazza changed. He still lived in the same city, walked the same streets, visited the same places. But everything felt distant, like he was watching his own life from afar. The bookstore remained, but he never stepped inside again. Some memories are too heavy to revisit. People around him noticed the difference. He spoke less, laughed less, loved, not at all. But the truth was, he hadn't stopped loving. He just didn't know where to put it anymore. Years passed. Time did what it always does, it softened the edges, blurred the pain, turned sharp memories into quiet echoes. Fazza built a life again, piece by piece. Not the one he once imagined, but one he could survive in. He became known for his words. Writing became his escape, his way of holding on to things he couldn't keep in reality. His stories carried fragments of Ara, her laughter, her silence, her unfinished sentences. Readers admired his depth, his understanding of love and loss. They didn't know it came from something real. One evening, at a small literary event, someone asked him a question. "Do you believe in true love?" a young woman said. Fazza paused. The room waited. He thought of Ara, the way she looked at him, the way she left, the way she stayed in his memories despite everything. "Yes," he finally said. "But not all true love is meant to last." The audience applauded softly, but Fazza wasn't listening. His mind had drifted somewhere else, somewhere between what was and what could have been. Later that night, as he walked home, he passed a familiar street. Without realizing it, his steps slowed. And then he saw her. Ara, standing under the same kind of light that once framed her in that bookstore window. She looked older, but not in a way that time had taken from her, more like it had added quiet stories to her presence. Their eyes met again. Just like the first time. No music. No dramatic pause. Just recognition. For a moment, neither of them moved. The world around them continued, unaware of the history standing still in that one place. Fazza, she said softly. He nodded. Ara. There were so many things they could have said. Questions, regrets, explanations. But some connections don't need words, they exist beyond them. Are you happy? He asked, surprising even himself. She smiled, but it was different this time. Not sad, not broken, just honest. I learned how to be, she replied. He understood that. And you? She asked. Fazza looked at her, really looked this time, not as someone he lost, but as someone who had once been a part of him. I learned how to live without what I couldn't keep. There was no bitterness in his voice. Just truth. They stood there a little longer, sharing a silence that felt both heavy and peaceful. Then, without needing to say it, they both knew it was time. Take care, Fazza, she said. You too, Ara. And just like that, they walked away. Not because they stopped caring, but because some stories aren't meant to be rewritten. Fazza didn't look back this time. Because he finally understood something he hadn't before. Love doesn't always stay. But that doesn't make it any less real. And sometimes, the most powerful love stories are the ones we couldn't keep.